much question. BWP has got one number 14.
It's about how do you set the standard every day.
We were a bunch of frauds in the first half.
This one, yes! The Rapids, and it's Cole Bassett once again.
Right now, we're mentally weak.
What a drive! Santos! Sensational!
We made it. Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome on in to the MLS Weekend Preview presented by AT&T 5G. Susannah Collins alongside Calen Carr and our little friend the Owl. We're going to get you set up for the weekend. Yeah!
That's right. We're starting things off with Nashville taking on Houston. This is the Univision game. And Twitter, Rios got his first goal for the club. Nashville unbeaten in their last 4 home games. Houston coming off a 4-0 loss to Chicago. Oh, come on, Houston.
Let's go, Nashville. All right, NYCFC taking on Cincinnati, the 4th meeting all-time between the clubs. NYCFC has the edge in this series, but they are going to be without a bear for the year with a torn ACL. Yikes.
That one hurts. Eastern Conference clash here. Kessler leads all MLS rookies in minutes played. Got his first goal on Wednesday. The Revs are 5th in the East right now. You heard Ben Olsen in the open. Just one win since July for DC United.
It's the Thierry Henry Bowl. Red Bulls taking on Montreal. Thierry Henry had 51 goals and 122 appearances as a player for Red Bulls. Calen, just
bad.
Pointing that out.
Yeah, who's the home team there? And this is an interesting one. Miami and Philadelphia. Philadelphia have been going well. Blake has 5 shutouts on the season right now. And will we see Higuain? Still no word.
Will we? Well, we saw CJ Sapong for the Chicago Fire. He was back with them, scored a goal in their win. Atlanta, though, they are relying on Jeff Larenowitz to score PKs. So that tells you all you need to know.
Big Red. I love it. Toronto taking on Columbus. This is one of the more intriguing, tasty matchups of the weekend, I think, between 2 of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. The Crew got Zellaround back. Hopefully they'll get Darlington back as well.
Hey, look at that. Kai Kamara is a loon, y'all. That's very, very exciting. Damir Krylock, though, he leads the RSL with 6 goals on the season. So watch out for that guy.
I think he got a new contract, too. Well-deserved. Dallas taking on Orlando. It is Poppy going back against his former side. Tesho continuing to score goals, and Orlando continuing their climb up the standings as a contender in the East. More on the top teams in the East coming up later in this show.
Let's go, Orlando. All right, Colorado against SKC. The Rapids, these days, they're buying into the play your kids mentality. Cole Bassett, Andre Shinyashiki have led the Rapids to back-to-back wins. SKC, though, have dropped 2 straight. They did get Alan Pulido back.
That'll help.
That will.
Vancouver taking on Portland in another one where it says, who's the home team here? Vancouver, I think, is stationed in Portland as is right now. 2020, strange things happening. It is surprisingly the first matchup between these two clubs going in different directions. Portland has been going Yimi Chara scoring goals. We'll have to see what happens in this one.
All right, LAFC against San Jose. Bradley Wright-Phillips with the brace on Wednesday night put him 6th all-time in goals scored. They put up 6 goals against Vancouver, which makes me a little terrified for San Jose in this one.
Oh, no. Say it ain't so, San Jose. This will be a good one. Galaxy versus Seattle closing out the weekend, 10:30 p.m. Lodero, 14 for 14 on PKs. You know he's not going to miss, although I probably just jinxed him. And then Chicharito. We got to see more. Come on, Chicharito. We've been waiting.
Where are you at? All right, here's a look at the Western Conference standings as they are right now. And we have 2 Cascadia teams sitting right on top, Seattle and Portland, both on 21 points. Calen, here's a look at the East. What do you see here? What stands out?
Well, I mean, it's basically split. Right after 4, there's a massive drop-off between TFC and New England, 8-point gap there. And then at the top, you're starting to see Columbus as well as Orlando right there. A little bit of separation there for Columbus. Can they kind of run away a little bit if they get a couple good games and some good health coming back into that side? But yeah, there's a clear top 4 in the East right now.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome on into the MLS Weekend Preview presented by AT&T 5G. I'm Susannah Collins. So happy to be joined by my guy, Calen Carr. Calen, all 26 MLS teams played on Wednesday night. They are now moving into a fully stacked weekend. When we are working in this condensed schedule, the way that we have seen this year for various reasons, what is the key to being successful when you are playing that many games in such a short period of time?
Oh, well, it's tough because there's not a lot of training time. There's not a lot of time to change the tactics, and you have to rotate the roster. And when you look at the teams that it's worked out for, like in Orlando, you can actually ride some of that momentum where it's just game to game to game, and you're playing well, you're in form, and you kind of keep it going. Whereas on the other side, you see a team like San Jose, and one thing goes wrong, and it just sort of tends to compound and slip away and go deeper and sink. And then you really have to stop the bleeding. And you have to really kind of reorganize, reshuffle things, and just try and be a little bit more pragmatic. I don't see that happening in San Jose's case. They just seem hell-bent on playing their style of play. But for the rest of the league, it's going to be a challenge, and it's going to test the depth. And we've seen teams handle that well, like a Philadelphia Union, who can ride some of their young players coming off the bench as well. So it is a tough time, and for the teams that are going well, I think it's a real opportunity to kind of create some distance and climb the table. And for the teams that are sinking, you just hope that they don't sink too far, because you might look up in a couple of weeks and realize that the gap has gotten really big in front of you.
In for Zardes! It had eyes!
Now Santos looking up.
What a drive! Santos! Sensational!
Still, Larea, second post! It's a breakaway for Altidore!
And Pozuelo rolls it in, and Toronto FC might just have won it late.
All right, Susannah, if we look at extra time, I don't know what's going on with these guys. Maybe their numbers and analytics are down, but they put together a power rankings, which are my favorite things to do.
Your favorite thing in the entire world.
But if you look at their rankings of the East, they have Columbus Crew, Toronto FC, Philly, and Orlando as their top four. If you look at the table, though, it's not exactly that way. TFC is fourth, Orlando is second, and Philadelphia is in third. So they clearly rate Toronto, which I think is fair in some sense, but Orlando, wow, they've been on a run. Let's focus on TFC and Columbus for the sake of this argument. Let's settle this once and for all, Susannah. Of these two teams, which team is the best?
The best team, Calen, for me, without a doubt, it's not even a question, is the Columbus Crew. Right now, they are the most complete team in Major League Soccer. They're 9-1-3 on the season. They have only allowed 5 goals all year. All year, 5 goals. And so we know that the defense is working, which is obviously hugely important. So we've got to give a huge shout out to that back line. Jonathan Mensah playing incredibly well. Harrison, a fool. But the attack, Calen. Caleb Porter said after their last win that they have one of the best attacking teams in the league. He thinks that that's something that we're not really talking about. But he is, I think he's absolutely right, because we've talked in depth about Darlington Nagbe, how important he has been in that midfield and sort of setting everything up. Lucas Zelarayan as well. And we spoke to Jordan Angeli last week about Jazzy Zardes and the season that he is having and how he is just that perennial goal scorer. I think he has 9 goals on the season right now. We saw this incredible goal this on Wednesday that sort of, for me, encapsulated what makes Columbus so good. That goal from Pedro Santos was just something special. But what I loved about it was the buildup. I think there was about 17 passes that were utilized to create that opportunity. And Columbus they're just so good in possession. And when I look at them sort of like top to tail, defensively, offensively, they are just at the cream of the crop in both areas. And so for me, it's an easy choice to say that the Columbus Crew are the best team in MLS right now.
I like it, Suze. You laid out a perfect case and argument, and I think the thing that stood out for me in your case is balance, right? They have the back line, but then they also have the way of creating goals. And, yeah, we've seen those long string of passes from MLS's back and beyond many times to be able to create the type of opportunities they are. I would say if there's one case to be made for TFC in this one, and I will go ahead and make it, is like Columbus, they've had to deal with injuries and haven't had the availability of everyone. I think Pozuelo may be the top player of any of these sides between the two of them, and is making a strong case for MVP. I believe 5 goals and 8 assists so far, and has been able to supply service as well as finish goals himself, and even at times play as a 9 or a false 9 in Vanny's system. And I really like the way Vanny's been able to take these different pieces and whatever he has available and organize them in a way that continually finds them in the playoffs and at MLS Cup. And that's the final piece, is, to me, mentally, they are still the top team psychologically. And if you want to go to MLS Cup in the East, the run, it still goes through TFC. So I agree. I think Columbus right now, the best team. But I wonder sometimes we tend to kind of overlook TFC somehow still after all of these years. And for me, they are still the team when you look towards MLS Cup to beat in the East.
I think that's absolutely fair. And my issue I have with TFC is, number one, can they stay healthy? Because I think at full strength, they are terrifying. But they've had such incredible injury issues in the past. And so that's one factor as well. And sometimes there are just certain games where sometimes I feel like they don't really show up. Mentally, like there's just like a little bit of a lapse, and so there's a lack of consistency, I think, in the intensity sometimes in which they play. Whereas from what I've seen in Columbus this year, it has just been so solid. So that for me gives them a little bit of the edge.
Back line as well. I think TFC sometimes struggle with pacing behind, and if you can turn those center backs or drag them out, and then occasionally they'll even make a mistake. So I look at the back line seems more solid, more secure for Columbus at this point. But I think you're right. Columbus right now is probably the tougher team to beat.
The tougher team. Well, I think we can both agree that they are going to be two teams that are we're going to see at the top of the Eastern Conference. But one team that I sort of anticipated possibly being in the mix there, NYCFC, just took a huge blow. Heber out for the season with a torn ACL. Those darn torn ACLs. I've had enough of this between like all the torn ACLs in the NFL and MLS. I'm just like, no, can we just keep these knees healthy? But that is a huge, huge blow for NYCFC, Calen.
You don't have to tell me about the ACL. I have
I didn't mean
sadly
to
lived it. But yeah, I mean, they are on 17 points, so 13 off the top. And I think we'll be solidly a playoff team. But yeah, as far as their ceiling, their top end, losing their number 9, they have a lot of weapons, I think, to account for this loss. But as far as getting to the aspirations of the places they want to go this year, losing Heber is going to be discouraging towards that.
Drops it back. First assist from Chicharito now.
And here he is with the left-footed effort. His first strike towards goal.
Ross Mobiel knock it down. Chicharito. It was there for him again. Whipped in cross, rising up the header off the top of the bar from Chicharito. Get closer at least.
Chicharito's attempted header. Abubakar got in front just enough.
Well, after 4 straight wins, Calen, the Galaxy are now winless in their last 3 matches. They're 4-5-3 on the season. And worth pointing out, in those last 3 matches, we have seen the return of Chicharito. Now, I'm gonna throw out some stats for you here. In games with Chicharito, the Galaxy are 0-4-2 with only 2 goals scored. When he hasn't been on the field, they are 4-1-1 with 14 goals scored. Okay, there's quite a discrepancy that we are seeing it, and I don't want to throw a guy like Chicharito under the bus here, because I do think that he's been dealing with injuries. There's all kinds of factors at play. But Calen, how do the Galaxy get better? How do they improve when Chicharito is on the field?
Well, I think some of that, it can be a little bit misleading because he was available at the beginning of the season when this team really was not in good form at all. themselves. The back line was an absolute mess. They were leaking goals. They weren't even really competing and didn't understand their system going forward. I think once he actually went out and once they returned back from MLS's back, we saw a different Galaxy team. We saw a much more organized team. We saw a team that kept possession, that moved the ball well, and was dangerous on set pieces. And we then wondered, well, what can happen when we get Chicharito back? Unfortunately, we haven't seen that happen. And look, this is where I think it's totally fair to be critical of Chicharito, because I said he was going to come in and score 20 goals, and this was, before the season began and before we knew what was going to happen with COVID-19. But still, when he has been here, he has not been good. And it's not just that. It was hard to find clips of him as far as missed chances, because he hasn't been creating chances. In the last game, he plays 81 minutes, 0 shots on goal. I was at the first match he played against Houston Dynamo. Again, 0 shots on goal. Just was not even looking threatening in the box. And so that part to me is where I think there is pressure on Chicharito. At times he's put maybe too much of it on himself. And at times we also look at his history. He's not a player that's going to create volumes of chances or is going to be really involved throughout the run of play. So for me, it is an interesting question for Schelotto as do they try and play with the ball the way they were looking to when they came back from MLS's back, or do they actually sort of revert to saying, all right, we figured out a little bit of getting behind the ball, and do we try and look a little bit more on the counter and get Chicharito on the move? Because when he's static in the box, and they're in crowded areas, that's where they're going to really struggle. Once you get Pavone in open space, you get Chicharito recycling these runs to the back post, that's where they've looked the most dynamic to me. So they may actually need to change the way that they play to account for Chicharito coming back and getting some motion happening, because it's looked static at times. It hasn't created opportunities, and 0 shots for 81 minutes. I don't care if it's your first full match back. It's not good enough for a player of that caliber.
It's crazy when you're watching these Galaxy games and Chicharito is on the field and you don't hear his name mentioned in the broadcast at all. It's a very, very strange thing to happen when you have a player of that caliber out there. Okay, so you had said you had predicted before the season started that Chicharito was going to score 20 goals this season. I believe I also am on record on Extra Time as saying these exact words, that Chicharito was going to score a butt-ton of goals. I actually said butt-ton because I am a professional.
I'm trying to quantify that or visualize that.
Thank you. I know.
Maybe,
what that means, whatever, up for interpretation.
Yeah.
But we clearly both anticipated that we were going to see more goals from Chicharito than he has. What are our revised expectations for him in terms of goal production?
Well, everybody did. So this is, the expectations. I'm sure he did. And it really hasn't gone that way. But if you look at where they are in the table right now, I mean, they are in a pretty good spot. I mean, they're now 10th, I think, just outside. But that was they were in 5th spot just a couple matches ago, right? And this is how fast things can shift and turn in Major League Soccer, especially this year. I think if he can get up to, I don't know. I actually don't anticipate him scoring a ton of goals. It just hasn't really looked great. But if he can get some important ones, I think 6-7 goals. I don't know. I mean, it's not going to be. I don't see him sort of having a massive breakout throughout the season. But if they can get into the playoffs, which I fully expect them to, and then he can get hot at the right time, then maybe Chicharito gets the last laugh.
Yeah,
What do you think?
I said he was going to have 7 goals at the end of the season in my head. And even that feels a little bit generous because I think there's, only 11 games left. But I think that, there could be a game. There could be a breakout game for him. he could score a hattie in one game and suddenly...
Their schedule lines up. They play, I think, Vancouver, San Jose, some teams that allow goals.
There you go. So it's entirely possible. So I'm gonna put my expectation at 7 goals for Chicharito, and I feel good about that. He should too.
I don't know about that.
Crosses it in, BWP, yes! The goals are flying in!
This is Wright-Phillips. Now that is a resounding response.
Into Rossi. Oh, again, he's got number 6 all by himself. Bradley Wright-Phillips. Can he do it? Yes, he can. There is the guy.
Well, Well, coming off his brace against Vancouver, BWP, who was, by the way, named Player of the Week, he now has 7 goals on the season. What has been a resurgence of the Englishman. He only scored twice last year, but a rebirth for him at LAFC. As you can see, he is there at number 6 on the MLS all-time goals leaders. Calen, he is a 2-time Golden Boot winner. You know, this is a guy that, aside from last season and the injuries that plagued him, we are used to seeing this man put the ball in the back of the net. Are you surprised at what we are seeing from him at LAFC and the success that he's had?
No, I thought he would do really well at LAFC. I'm surprised to see it happen so quickly, and I'm surprised to see the volume already that he's been able to amass. I thought he would be a player that would come in, play an important role, but maybe score more important goals that could help this team maybe get over the top, whether it was towards winning the Supporter Shield again or to get to an MLS Cup. That was the way I was planning on measuring his output. But then out steps Carlos Vela, and then Diomande leaves, and suddenly we see basically a return to normal for BWP. And sometimes this can happen where, especially when you're dealing with an injury or you're dealing with a groin, you get to a new environment, you get to a new maybe medical staff that takes a bit of a different approach or different look at things, and you find form. And he fits perfectly into that system, because when I look at the times where he struggled with the Red Bulls, so much was being asked of him. I remember whether it was Chris Armas or Jesse Marsh, any of the interviews were talking about how much Brad gave to the team. And a lot of it was with his pressure, but also oftentimes they'd resort to just sort of lofted balls in behind and have him chase it down. Whereas here, the system is really designed in such a dynamic way to really spread and pull teams apart and allow him to do what he does best, which we just saw in this last match, which is just get in the box and sniff things out. And he's been able to add more than that. I mean, he can contribute throughout the run of play and in build-up as well, can find a pass. But ultimately what he's there for is to get to that back post or to find space in the box, sniff out a rebound, turn it around. And for goal scorers, you don't lose that quality. And so we've seen him really thrive in LAFC. The change of scenery has been fantastic, and it's been incredible to see.
It's the only return to normal that we have seen in 2020, let's be honest. All right, well, during the month of September, Major League Soccer and Continental Tire are teaming up to raise awareness and funds for childhood cancer. Now, in its 7th year, the Kick Childhood Cancer campaign aims to find better cures for all types of childhood cancer, and now, more than ever, provides support to one of the most vulnerable populations. You can log on to MLSsoccer.com/MLSworks for more details.
Nagbe hits it up to himself, and what a strike from Darlington Nagbe out of absolutely nowhere. Anthony Fontana has the go-ahead goal! His second of the match!
Waston in the 6-yard box. This ball whipped in off the post and in! An Olympico Harris Madunian.
He'll let fly from distance and scores! Raul Ruiz-Diaz completely against the run of play.
It is never too early to talk about goals of the year, and here is a look at some of the contenders so far, starting with this beauty from Darlington Nagbe. Mercy.
Absolutely, and Fontana here hits that one pretty clean. It was on the ground, but hey, you got to give it up to him. He took that one well, and then how about this, Susannah? You're not going to see that too often.
No, you just love it when that happens. Raul Ruiz-Diaz, though, he has something to say about it. This is a beautifully struck ball.
I could pick 2 or 3 from Ruiz-Diaz this year. I love that one he hit last week, just off the quick bounce with the left foot. And then Pavone here, I think this was on opening day. I was at the stadium for this one. But, yeah, I mean, he took that one. He took that one quite well.
It's a million years ago. Let's be honest. What do you have a do you have a preference here? Because for me, it's Darlington Nagbe and everyone else. That ball, I don't even know. I don't know what it feels like to strike a ball that perfectly and just know exactly where it's going. It's just a thing of beauty.
Susannah, let's take a look at this. Well, imagine the ball just comes to you and you're like, oh, hold on a second. I'm just gonna lift. I think I'm just gonna lift this one up to myself. I mean, and then the technique involved in doing this, the audacity, the presence of mind, and Yeah, I mean, just pure.
The way he
just
turns his body, too. I mean, like, he makes it look so easy, and it's just
But we
not
saw him do this already.
easy.
He won the goal of the year in 2011, I think, as a rookie, where he basically just juggles it on top of the box. I mean, he's playing his own game. And for all the things that people say about Darlington, one of my favorite players in Major League Soccer to watch by far. But just the fact that he doesn't score volume of goals, but he's like a great artist where he's like, if I'm going to paint, it's going to be a masterpiece. And boy, that one is the masterpiece for me.
I like that analogy.
Walks Henry. Thierry brings it down. Fires! Yes! Thierry Henry cracks it off the crossbar. Henry instead. Off one, walk it in! Henry from the impossible angle has put it home. Looking for Holderson. What a goal! Thierry Henry cycles one home.
Well, Thierry Henry makes his return to Red Bull Arena on Sunday when the Montreal Impact take on his former team. Oh, my goodness, so many incredible moments from his 5 years with the Red Bulls. Here's a look at his resume with them. And this doesn't even take into account his entire resume. This guy is just something special.
Yeah, I think this may be the only time you see 4-time All-Star on his resume. This man won the World Cup, the Champions League, the Premier League as part of the Invincibles, and then came to MLS and did a lot of the same. I mean, some of the moments he had were truly incredible. And for me, it was really just not just what he was doing, but the style, right? Like,
Filthy.
you can't mention
Did you let that back
Thierry Henry
heel?
without the style.
My
But this
goodness.
one, too, just a little bit of a lift, just casual. I mean, we always saw he has that lovely little curl to coming from that left-hand side, but this one, he just thrashes straight through. I remember watching this one against the Fire. My boy Baki there kind of tucked out the way. I would
You
too.
played against him, Calen. You played against Thierry Henry. You were on the same field as he was.
We won a couple of matches, too, with those Dynamo teams. We snuck one at Red Bull Arena, actually, to go.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. I think that was a tough one for them. But, anyways, yeah, not often you get on the right side of playing against a guy like this, and it was. I mean, it's amazing to have him back in MLS. I think he's done a really good job with Montreal so far under difficult circumstances. It's a club that hasn't made the playoffs in 3 years, and right now they're in a pretty good spot.
Oh, I love it. So I have a great Thierry Henry story that was told to me by one Mike McGee. So this was the night before All-Star game. I can't remember if it was 2013, but Thierry Henry they were at like a pre-party, and Thierry Henry was just sitting there like slugging red wine. And Mike, it was like he never drank before a game, a night before a game, like not a huge drinker when he was a player at all. And Thierry Henry like calls him over and starts pouring him wine. And so Mike felt like, he was like, oh my God, it's Thierry Henry, and I have to drink wine with him. And so he said he ended up drinking like 3 glasses of wine and then just feeling like crap the next day before the game. But he was like, so worth it to drink red wine with Thierry Henry. And I said, you made the right decision, sir.
Absolutely, I endorse that as well. Yeah, no, I mean,
100.
Yeah, I know. You saw some of the tweets come up, and they were talking about him kind of going after the fans or going after his own teammates. And I don't know, he's kind of got that like kind of Michael Jordan mentality that you would hear about. And but hey, it really works, and I think I would appreciate playing for a manager like that. I like people that hold you to account and push the team forward. And how are you not going to listen to somebody who has been as successful and just has the sort of footballing brain that he has? So, yeah, this will be a strange one coming back home and playing against it. You wish it was a full stadium, but I think a lot of intrigue anyways looking into this one. And for Montreal, like I said, they've been through a lot. They've been their own worst enemy, creating their red cards in I believe 3 matches in a row, Kyoto in this last one. So I'm yeah, they need to get back on track, but I think they're pointing in the right direction to make a run-up during the second half of the season.
Well, time now, Calen, for your favorite part of the show. It is MLS Predict 6, presented by BetMGM, a weekly free-to-play game from Major League Soccer. Correctly The final outcomes of the 6 featured MLS matches, along with secondary predictions such as which player or team will score first or how many goals will be scored, and you could win $50,000. Head on over to MLSPredict6.com and play for free. Now, last week, Calen, buddy, hate to tell you this, but you went 0 for 2 because Colorado ended up
Are you sure
beating
about
the
that?
Galaxy. I am, and then you said that there were going to be 4 goals scored in that SKC Dallas matchup, and there were actually 5. So you were really close.
I think I started with 5 to begin with.
You
but
did.
Then I was like,
Yeah,
was
you
wondering,
initially
yeah.
said 5. Go with your gut, man.
That's weird because I was checking. Did you
I
get
went
yours?
1 for 1. I went 1 for 1. So I feel pretty good about it. Yeah, Portland beat San Jose, and then I said the halftime score of Minnesota-Houston was going to be 1-1. It was actually 2-0. So there were 2 goals. I was right in goal total, just not the actual score. So close.
Predicting MLS, I would say it's been more difficult than I had anticipated originally, but I'm ready to get back on the right track this week.
Give me your
I feel
pick.
pretty confident.
Give me your pick.
All right, I'm picking Nashville. Nashville SC, I think, has won 4 matches, or unbeaten in 4 matches at home, and they're going against my Dynamo, which hurts to pick against you guys. I'm sorry, but I've been pretty bad at Predict 6 lately, and I got to get on the right track. The Dynamo losing to Chicago, road form, questionable, too many mistakes. So sometimes, Susannah, when things are hard, you got to throw out the family, friends, and you got to make the right pick. I'm going with Nashville in this one. Who you got?
Savage. I am picking Orlando over Dallas. Dallas coming off that 1-0 loss to Atlanta, so I'm not feeling so great about them. Also, though, Orlando, you guys, they are sitting in second in the East right now, and they are unbeaten in their last 7 matches. So let's go. Let's go, Orlando. They are my pick this week.
I like it. I'm going to go with
I
my
do
secondary pick now, and I'm going to look towards the Philadelphia. Oh, sorry. Oh, no, we're not. Vancouver and Portland. How could I forget? This is a live show, right? I like this.
Yep.
And I chose for first goal scorer, I'm going with Jeremy Ebobisse because I think he can score in a multitude of ways. No Sebastian Blanco, of course. A lot of attention on Valeri, but I think Valeri plays provider in this one, whether it's a set piece, whether it's through the run of play. I'm going with Jeremy to get off on the scoring foot first.
I like that pick. That's a good one. All right, my secondary pick, I'm looking at that LA-Seattle match, and I'm going total goals scored, and I'm saying that there are going to be 4 goals scored in this game. I do think that Seattle is going to have more of those than LA. Just adding that in.
You didn't even have to go there, but you did.
For good measure. I like to just push it. Just give it one extra level, you know? It's just the way it is. It's Friday.
Yeah.
Let's get crazy. All right, here's a look at the schedule for the weekend. And on Saturday, we're looking at that Nashville-Houston game, 3:30 p.m. Eastern on Univision, TUDN, and Twitter.
Come on, Houston, prove me wrong.
Listen, hello, and then check that out on Sunday. The Thierry Henry Bowl. The Red Bulls taking on Montreal, 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Plus and TVA Sports in Canada. I cannot wait to check that one out.
Yeah, and then as we look over towards Sunday, we've got some good matches coming through. Colorado versus Sporting Kansas City will be a good one, and Minnesota versus Salt Lake. I think Minnesota has been good in the second half of the year, and now they've got our good friend Kai Kamara. I would expect to see he's not going to take long to try and find a goal and get his account going for that Minnesota team. I think he may be a piece that pushes them over the top to being a potential title contender. And how cool would it be to see Kai lift an MLS Cup? That would be awesome.
That is awesome. Adrian Heath would think that was really awesome, too. Love it. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Please enjoy all the soccer this weekend. And Calen, how'd you feel about this live? Did you feel good? I liked it.
Pretty good,
good
except,
energy.
I started to talk about Philly, because I just really like Philadelphia, you know? And I think
you're
people
fine.
will forgive me for that. And if I ever mess up, I know I've got you, and you've got my back.
That's what friends are for, buddy.
I think so.
Friends are for.
I'm not sure always.
Enjoy the weekend, everybody. We'll see you soon.